There's some talk about bringing back the supersonic, and Japan is doing some experiments. I think air travel is going to continue to evolve, but it's already not bad. If it increases in speeds by 30-40%, it's pretty good. With planes, it's just a matter of speed and the price dropping. Right now, with the COVID, there's tickets at $200 to go to a bunch of places. So costs enabling more travel. I actually see travel decreasing a lot, believe it or not. I remember this commercial. There was this corporate iron warrior who was known for having traveled 56 countries, in 1 year, and he made sales meetings in like 5 continents, and all of a sudden his boss shows up and says like, this is your office, and just don't worry about it, because they just got like video conferencing equipment. And the guy was depressed. This COVID, I've heard it from a lot of colleagues that they realized that they didn't need to travel as much as they used to. They can get a lot done through video conferencing now with the quality, the stability. They can talk more times, more often, face to face. And when VR comes into play in AR, and you can put on those HoloLens and connect and look at them as if they were in front of you and share a meeting room and use the same whiteboard to brainstorm, the experience is going to be very seamless. I don't expect traveling to increase, and thus the investment in faster planes so we can get to remote locations instead of 12 hours to get there in 9 and 8 and 7. Those advances will come as a natural evolution, but I don't see hundreds of millions of dollars pouring into R&D for that. What will be pouring in is for things in space, but I'm just not going to get into space with this course because I don't want to give it that sci-fi feel. It's bad enough that many of you are already skeptical, and what I want is to make you feel comfortable so that you jump into it and you feel the immediacy of it coming. And if I start talking about space, I just feel like it immediately goes into a sci-fi realm that I can just not recover from. So not talking about space in this course, unless you guys ask for it in the comments and email me. If that's the case, then I'll bring you all the space research that I have. But if not, let's just stick to this global Earth that we have and take care of it first before we start colonizing the stars. That's the future of transportation, largely driven by the megacities. I think I've talked about this with the case of China. Big data and open data structures for pretty much everything to survive 100 million person city. That's the basic minimum. You can't go forward. People will be killing each other if you don't plan well, if you don't design well. People will starve because you couldn't get the food from one end of the city to the other. Like logistics, it has to be like clockwork. Precision will require AI, and that's going to be a big part of the transportation of the future. Now, so there are studies already underway to figure out the altitude grids so that the Congress and the senators and so legislative powers can create the framework between cars and planes. There's going to be a lot of transportation going on. It's going to mostly be drones. Now, I don't know about flying taxis, because flying taxis to me is like, okay, helicopter price. But drones, that's a mini helicopter price. And that's definitely feasible. And so there's going to be a lot of drones. And the drones are going to be basically our delivery system. So that's something that's going to change. And I think this is huge because this really impacts, you really have to think about in a 50, 100, 150 million person city. And you should do the 3 scenarios, by the way, because it's very different. 50, 100, 150, you should do the 3. How big is it? No. So it's like a corridor the size of, Tijuana to San Francisco, probably, or maybe longer. But how deep does it go? What's the width? What's the length? And then a super speed train, how long does it take to cross the whole span? A high speed car, and you really should think of speeds. We're really talking about 200 miles an hour, 300 miles an hour. At least the interstate connector, so the part that connects one end to the other, the transit component, is going to be going at high speed. So you have to ask the question, all right, so that's the case. How many warehouses do I need if I'm Amazon? And I'm sure Jeff Bezos is all over this already. But how many warehouses do I need? Where do I need them? This video is for everybody except Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, I'm sure, has it completely covered, but this video is for everybody else. It still has to do logistics and deliveries and how should they plan it. And it's funny because at some point I heard a lot of business plans for Black Kitchen, and I was like, what's a Black Kitchen? And they told me, well, as Uber Eats explodes and grows and develops, like there's a lot of kitchens that you don't have to have physical locations to the public. So as long as you develop your brand and you get well known, you could have X number of retail shops, but the other ones can just be kitchens that cook the food and deliver. So you can have 50 locations at only 20 restaurants, right? But that obviously assumed a traditional delivery method via, motorcycle, which is in many cities it's what Uber Eats uses, or car. So if you're not doing the motorcycle, if you're actually doing drone and you don't have traffic to deal with, that changes the entire equation of logistics and how many stores you need and how many warehouses you need and how many Black black kitchens, because just like black kitchens, think of black warehousing. If you're a supermarket chain and supermarket delivery becomes 100%, you never go to the supermarket anymore. You either connect through VR, and I saw some demos where you show up and you clink, 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 and or you just do it on your app, or you scan your refrigerator, whichever one you want. So either VR and you're physically in the aisle selecting things, or you're scanning, or you're picking things on an app, but they get delivered. The point is that they get delivered, it's just in time, like 1 or 2 hours max. We won't need to dedicate these large spaces that are very costly in the middle of, dense urban centers to creating these huge supermarkets. So if supermarkets won't exist, that means that you can have just like black kitchens, like black warehouses where you just stock up on the food and you're delivering via drone. So I think a lot of these things will be important in the future. How do you figure out your retail versus warehouse versus drone delivery? And that equation, I think, is going to be very, very important in the future. Because we're going to have a whole new grid, which is low altitude grid, and you're going to see things flying all the time. It's going to be constant. So you're going to see things getting delivered and things getting taken, and when it rains, when there's wind, when there's so a lot of these things are going to be interesting, because obviously the drones don't have the protection that a van would have, a delivery van. But I think it completely changes the whole landscape. Right? That's something important that in a way does affect the transportation system, because home delivery, office delivery, food delivery, all these deliveries will become more and more as we move to as a service. A big part of the transportation system is going to be delivery in the future.